We are live. Let's go ahead and post the link to Twitter. And we are live. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? My name is Dillard, bringing you guys another podcast. I think this is number 21 now, and I'll have number 22 tomorrow. I know I've been slacking a little bit. I do apologize for that, but we're going to get the show back on the road. And today, I really don't want to talk about it. It's not a topic that I am very confident in talking about, in the sense that I just don't want to talk about it at all because it's nothing but bad news. Not to say that the Yankees can't pull through this tragedy. They can't pull through the injury bug like they did last year, but we will definitely admit that it's less than ideal that both DJ, Aaron Judge, and Giancarlo Stanton are all out, three key contributors to the team. I know Brian Hope said something about Boone says there's no timetable yet on DJ LeMahieu, who is getting a second opinion tomorrow. He also said that Boone said the Yankees are consulting with the hand specialist who treated LeMahieu in 2018. Obviously, you can only imagine how awful the comments are. Everybody is extremely worried, which everybody has a right to be very worried about LeMahieu. Usually those second opinions aren't the best thing. I'm trying to stay optimistic. A lot of people know I'm one of the more optimistic fans on the side of Yankee Twitter, and I like to just be very positive and basically eliminate any negative energy that exists unless it comes to shove or it's warranted. But right now, I'm just not too keen on the situation with LeMahieu. I have no idea what's going to happen with LeMahieu. Usually, like I said, a second opinion doesn't usually mean a good thing. I don't know if he's going to need surgery. I don't know what's wrong with his hand, what's wrong with his wrist. I have no idea. The only thing that we can hope is that it's only usually around a 10 to 15-day injury. Hopefully it's not worse. Hopefully it's not something that he's going to need the whole rest of the season to recover, because that's going to be very bad, not only moving forward in the regular season, but moving forward once we get to October, because it pretty much seems like it's inevitable that this team is going to make it to the postseason. They're definitely going to make it to the postseason. They have more than enough potential and more than enough power to get there. I don't think anybody's worried about them not making the postseason. Everybody's worried about them not winning a championship yet again, falling short at the footsteps of usually the ALCS yet again, or wherever they make it in October. That's what everybody's worried about. And you want DJ in the lineup every single day, not only in the regular season, but you want him definitely in the postseason. I mean, he's one of those hitters that's always going to get the job done for you. So that's definitely not good news. I know there was also some news the other day about Aaron Judge being on the 10-day IL with a right calf strain, which is not good. I know that Brian Hope actually tweeted this out yesterday, or not actually yesterday, today, excuse me. He said, Aaron Judge said he feels 100% and was begging the Yankees not to place him on the IL. Judge thinks he could have been ready to play tomorrow. He also said, I've been healthy, been feeling great. This is the best I've felt in a while. I'm pretty frustrated being put on the IL for something that's just a couple of days thing. And then he said, Judge spoke too soon, or Judge spoke to Boone, trainers and doctors. This kind of shows how much the organization cares for me and looks out for my well-being. They don't want me to go out there and push it. I can't be frustrated with this organization. I'm frustrated with myself and not being out there. So you can tell it's not necessarily that Judge doesn't want to play. He obviously wants to play. I mean, he literally was begging them to put him on the roster, put him in the lineup and go play. But it's more one of those kinds of things of we want to be careful, because we don't want to stretch an injury like a calf strain and then Judge be out for, I don't know, God knows how long, like the rest of the season. Like pushing, you never want to push an injury. That's pretty much the worst thing that you can do. I do appreciate that Judge wants to play. I do think that it is the right thing. As much as a key contributor as Judge is in the lineup, I think the right thing to do is to make sure to give him a few days at least to rest and make sure that he doesn't put wear and tear and more stress on that injury. But definitely that is a good sign, though, because a lot of people love to complain that Aaron Judge doesn't want to play and that he's just made out of glass and stuff. But it's like he literally is begging the Yankees to put him on the roster. He wants to play. He's like one of those guys. He wants to win. He wants to play every single day. If you really genuinely think that any of these guys, especially when we're talking about Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, because those seem to be the two names that pop up every time when we think about injuries, because they're big guys and they get injured quite frequently. I'm not denying that at all. But a lot of people seem to think that these guys just love to go out and get injured and they don't want to play. And that's just the most ridiculous thing. I don't know any baseball player that would want to intentionally get themselves injured and not play. That makes no sense from a pretty much any standpoint you can think about. Like, that doesn't make sense. It's also around the same lines of, oh, I don't want this guy to do well on my team. Like, I want him to purposely fail. Why would you want any player on your team to fail? That makes no sense from any standpoint. It doesn't matter how much you hate the guy or whatever. That makes no physical sense on a standpoint of I want my team to succeed. That's pretty much the same level. It's like Aaron Judge or Giancarlo Stanton. They don't go out there and say, oh, it's fine that I'm injured. It's completely fine. I'm not pushing myself. I don't actually care about winning. I'm just here to get paid. I mean, obviously they're going to get paid a large sum of money, especially Stanton with his contract. But to think that these guys go out there and they're not frustrated with being injured and frustrated that they have to keep coming back over and over again to prove their worth to the fan base, that's just ridiculous. I don't get that, and I will never get that. And then the other day, a while back actually, on August 9th, Giancarlo Stanton was placed on the 10-day IL with a left hamstring strain, which I'm not really sure how much the progress is going to be made with that. As much as I love Stanton, we really don't know how long he's going to be out for at this moment in time. I honestly don't know how long DJ is going to be out for. As a matter of fact, I am very hopeful, though, that Judge will be back pretty soon. Obviously, he's been begging. He wants to play. So I think Judge is doing okay. They're just being very cautious with him. Although I will say on the flip side, it would have been nice for Aaron Boone to say something sooner and not lie to the fact that Aaron Judge was supposedly okay. You don't do things like that. If something happened, you got to tell everybody when you hear it. You don't just lie about it. You don't just sugarcoat it. If Judge is injured, just flat out say he's injured and we might put him on the 10-day IL. Just straight up say it. I mean, that might not be the news that everybody wants to hear, but you can't just go out and lie about it and then later say, oh, well, Judge isn't actually fine. He's injured. That's not being a responsible manager. And I love Aaron Boone. He's one of my favorite managers that the Yankees have ever had. I know that we haven't really had much managers in most of the lifetime of the Yankees. I did really like Girardi, obviously, too. But I do really like Boone. Like pretty much every manager that I've ever watched with the Yankees, I've loved every single one of them. I loved Joe Torre. I loved Joe Girardi. And I also love, obviously, Aaron Boone. I think he's a smart manager. I know there are some situations where he can basically put certain guys out in the bullpen or the starting rotation for a little bit longer than what was necessary, unless you're trying to get depth out of those guys because your bullpen is being taxed. I do understand that. Don't get me wrong. But this is just one of those things where Aaron Boone should have just came out straight out of the gate and been like, okay, look, Aaron Judge isn't good. He might be out for who knows long. It might be just a day-to-day injury. It could be a 10-day IL thing. You just got to spill the beans with that kind of thing. You just have to spill the truth and not sugarcoat it. Point blank. That's pretty much where I'm going to end it off on. So that's pretty much all about the injuries. Now, what can the Yankees do as of right now? Well, I know I talked about this in podcasts in the past. I actually talked on it with Kyle from John Boy Media on one of the podcasts, and then I talked about it with my co-host John on several of them, is the fact that now we have the opportunity to actually see Aaron Hicks in the leadoff position as well as Luke Voit, which I have hinted at the fact that we could have a lineup adjustment of Luke Voit and Aaron Hicks being leadoff because they're guys that work out walks. Luke Voit had the highest on-base percentage last season, and also Aaron Hicks works a lot of walks. A lot of people don't like him for his batting average. They complain that he doesn't get on base enough from hits, but he has one of the higher on-base percentages in the league because he works a lot of walks. You want a guy who's able to work a lot of walks and get on base. That's the whole point of a leadoff hitter. You want him to get on base so the guys behind him can drive in runs. That's why I don't think it'd be a bad idea to have DJ in the cleanup spot or the 3-hole. You get those guys in the first two spots on base. For example, you could have Hicks or you could have Voit go up there, get a leadoff walk. When Aaron Judge comes back in the 2-hole or, the second spot, you can basically have Judge, he can drive in runs. He can drive in a home run. Then right off the bat in the first inning, you've got a 2-run home run. You've got a 2-run lead. There's always that possibility. And then if Judge just gets on base, because, Judge can also get on base as well, then you have 2 men on base. And then you have DJ in that position ready to drive them in because DJ is always going to hit regardless. It doesn't matter if there's runners in scoring position. Doesn't matter if there's men on corners, second base, first base. Doesn't matter if there's nobody on base. DJ is going to hit. He's going to hit regardless, and you might as well give DJ more opportunities to drive in runs. I want to say last season in the leadoff position, he had at least 102 RBIs. He at least had 100-plus RBIs in a leadoff position. That is ridiculous. That just proves that DJ is going to hit and driving runs no matter where he is at in the batting lineup. And that's the whole point where I would not be opposed to DJ being in that position where he gets more opportunities to drive in runs. Now, if DJ is only in the leadoff position for the rest of the year, if he comes back, that is, because we don't know how serious or severe this injury is going to be, or how long it's going to last, or how long his recovery time is going to be. If he comes back and when he comes back, if that happens, I would not be opposed to him staying in the leadoff position. But as somebody who's going to drive in runs and he's a good contact hitter, you usually want your contact hitter to be a third hole type of guy. And, you have Aaron Hicks or you have Luke Voigt leading off. Obviously, Aaron Judge is pretty much going to stay in the second spot. I don't expect that to change at all. And I don't really think it should change unless they want to experiment with the lineup a little bit like they have been doing now, because they're kind of forced to with Judge, Stanton, and DJ all out. And what I mean by that is the Yankees actually released their lineup over an hour ago, and we have Hicks in the leadoff. We have Gio batting second. We have Tauchman batting third, Glaber fourth in cleanup, which I like Glaber in the cleanup too. Glaber's finally starting to get off the hot streak. Him and Gary, Gary Sanchez, 3 home runs the last 3 games. Gary looks good at the plate. Glaber Torres has looked good at the plate. It's very, very much needed. With these guys, with 3 key contributors and Stanton, DJ, and Judge all being out for who knows how long. Judge probably will be the first one back. I'm very confident Judge will be back soon. Stanton and DJ, obviously DJ, we have no idea because we haven't gotten the second opinion yet on the injury and how long he'll be out. It's good that Glaber and Gary are both starting to heat up because we need them to heat up. They haven't been heating up. They've been slacking. I know I made a video in the past, which I thought was starting to look a little bad. It was starting to be a little bit of a cold take where I said something about I was never worried about Glaber Torres. But I think that was the whole point. Like, I really just wasn't worried about Glaber Torres because he was eventually going to find his way. And he's finally finding his way. And a lot of people complain about Gary Sanchez. I'm not saying anybody shouldn't have complained. Gary Sanchez got off to a large slump. But the thing about Gary is he has those months. Like last year, I want to say it was July. It was just atrocious. But he also has those months where he's just swinging out of the gate. And the thing about Gary that a lot of people seem to forget is that he'll have those months where he's just atrocious, but then he'll have those months where he is one. It seems like he's one of the best hitters in the league, at least from a catcher standpoint. He is, because obviously he's not up to like a Mike Trout level or Christian Yelich or Cody Bellinger level. But as far as catchers hitting, he's one of the best in the league, if not the best. And his home runs prove that. Since I will actually look this stat up because, like I said, I don't want this to be something that I lie about or something that I have misinformation about. But in terms of catchers, he is one of the best at hitting home runs. And he has proven this from pretty much the time that he came up through the Yankee system and whenever he made his major league debut with the Yankees. So, yeah. So basically from here, from 2017 to 2020, Gary Sanchez leads all catchers in the league, every single catcher from the American League to the National League with 89 home runs. The closest one to Gary Sanchez is Yasmani Grandal with 74. That is why Gary Sanchez is so important and why so many people overlook how much potential and how good he is as a hitter. Yeah, he'll have his month slumps where he looks completely lost. But when Gary Sanchez is locked in at the plate, that is a scary man to face. That is a scary Kraken to face. You do not want to face Gary when he is hot. And that's important that him and Glaber are on point right now, because then we can give a little room for error, as in the sense of having DJ and having Judge and having Stanton all out. Because when you have guys that step up, and that's why this Yankee lineup is so good and why it's so fierce, is that no matter how many injuries affect this team, obviously we don't want anyone out. We want this lineup to be as good as possible. We want it to be at full strength, obviously. Nobody's disagreeing with that. But at the same time, you got to have guys that step up whenever you need them most, and that's what Glaber is doing. That is what Gary's doing. And let's talk about Clint Frazier. Clint Frazier, he's made the routine plays that he needs to make defensively, because we know last year he showed that he was atrocious defensively, and that is putting it very nicely. There's no sugarcoating that. Everybody knows that he played defense very poorly last year. Whenever he played, he just could not seem to get a grasp on executing routine fly balls that would be easy for the majority of outfielders to make. But he's made those plays that he's needed to make. He's been very, very good with the bat. He's been outstanding with the bat. I mean, there's really not much more I could ask for Clint Frazier in the last few games that he's played. And I actually made a tweet about this because I was very impressed. I already knew Clint Frazier had a ton of potential with the bat. I think a lot of people already knew that, but he's been stuck in minors and he just hasn't gotten a chance to prove his worth. And I think that was the problem. And not only that, Clint Frazier has matured a ton. He's a lot more mature. He actually said this the other day in a press conference. He said that I realized that a guy like Aaron Judge, people came to pay big bucks to see Aaron Judge play, not to see me play. And from a standpoint, looking at a maturity level, that's very mature on Clint Frazier. But he realizes that he's not there just to necessarily try and impress everybody, but he's there just to get the job done and prove his worth on the team. And that's all I can ask from Clint Frazier. That's what I want, is production from him. And he's showing it so far. He's showing the maturity. He's showing the production with the bat. And he's making those routine plays that he needs to make. And quite frankly, if the Yankees don't decide to trade him for a pitching piece, because we do know the Yankees still need starting pitching, especially with J. Happ being very inconsistent, as much as I love James Paxton, hopefully James Paxton starts heating up. He wasn't atrocious the other day, because his velocity was reaching up to 95, which is always a good start. The good thing about Paxton is he's only going to get better because he's one of those guys as the season progresses, he gets better and better, especially last year in August and September. He was incredible. The only negative about that is in a condensed season, you need your guys to be on point immediately and stay that way for the rest of the season, which is very unfortunate for Paxton. But I'm trying to find the tweet because I made a really interesting tweet about Clint Frazier yesterday because, like I said, Clint Frazier, he's somebody that needs to be playing every day. If he's not playing every day, he needs to be traded for a starting pitcher up the lines of maybe Lance Lynn, because Lance Lynn has been incredible this season, and I don't see the Rangers competing right now at this very moment. I know there were some rumors about them shopping Joey Gallo, which is some interesting news if that's true. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm pretty sure it's just rumors at this point. But a guy like Lance Lynn or maybe even Mike Clevenger, because Clint Frazier's value has never been so high at this moment. But if he's not going to be traded, he needs to play. Like, there's really no excuse for Clint Frazier not to be in the lineup every single day. There's really no excuse for it. And right here, I posted that Clint Frazier has a 2.122 OPS this season. I mean, I know that it's a very small sample size. If we go to Fangraphs and look this up, just so I can read off the numbers across the board for you. So Clint Frazier for 2020, 12 plate appearances. He has a 636 average, 667 on base percentage, 1.455 slugging, 0.845 WOB or WOBA. I'll just say WOBA because it's easier for me to pronounce it like that. And then a 459 WRC plus with a 0.5 WAR. And I will actually look this up because I heard somebody say something about Astros hitters not having as much WAR, wins above replacement, for those who don't know. They apparently, some hitters for the Astros didn't have as much WAR as Clint Frazier did, so we will definitely look this up. So Clint Frazier already in 12 plate appearances has a 0.5 F4, which is pretty insane. That's pretty ridiculous. Another reason why he should be in the lineup because he's contributing to wins on a very large scale. So if we go to the Houston Astros, this is crazy. So Jose Altuve, a negative 0.2 WAR, George Springer, a 0.1 WAR, Josh Reddick, a 0.3 WAR, Michael Brantley, a 0.4 WAR, Bregman, a 0.6 WAR. So Clint Frazier has played 3 games with 12 plate appearances. He has a 0.5 F4, and he's already a bigger contributor than Jose Altuve, George Springer, and Michael Brantley. And he's almost up there with Alex Bregman, Carlos Correa, and Yuli Gurriel. That is insanity. I don't even really know how to put that on a pedestal standpoint. It's insane. It just proves that Clint Frazier needs to play. He needs to play, point blank and simple. There is no excuse for Clint Frazier not to play. If you are already posting basically just obnoxiously high numbers, and you're already better than Altuve, you're already better than a lot of these guys, I'm actually curious to see how many guys he is better than in terms of the league in general, not just Astros hitters, but the league in general. So Like I said, 12 plate appearances, 0.5 F4. He's over so many different players right now. It's insane. Like I said, I know it's a small plate, or it's a small sample size, but it's like he is over a significantly good portion of players in the league with such a small sample size, and that's why I think WAR is a really important stat. Trevor Wagner, thank you for popping in, man. Do you think we should extend him or go for JT Realmuto? I definitely think that. Wow, that's a tough question. I really would love to see JT in pinstripes. I'm not going to lie. I would really love to see JT in pinstripes. JT is a fabulous catcher. He's one of the best in the league. He's probably the best defensively. He's not the best offensive hitter. But in sense of overall production, I'm completely fine with Gary Sanchez. Now, if we got an opportunity for JT to be in pinstripes, I would take it immediately if that opportunity presented itself. But at the end of the day, moving forward, I am completely fine with Gary Sanchez being the main catcher for the foreseeable future, just because in terms of offensive production and the sense of home runs, and I talked about this earlier with the amount of home runs he's hit since 2017, he leads Major League Baseball in home runs since 2017 among catchers. That includes JT Realmuto, that includes it includes JT, includes Yasmani, it includes Wilson Contreras, it includes pretty much every single catcher in the entire league. Basically, Gary has hit more home runs than every catcher in the league. And that's very important. A lot of people don't put a lot of thought in that. And home runs are very important. Home runs contribute to a lot of your slugging, to a lot of the offensive production in general. I think most people can definitely say a home run is better than a single or a double or a triple. So that's why it's very, very important. Who's injured right now at the point? Aaron Judge is injured. We have a lot of faith and confidence, at least I do, that he will be back in the near future, because he did say today, according to Brian Hoke, that he was begging the Yankees to play. He doesn't want to be on the IL. He thinks he's good to go, but I think it's more of a very cautious, like a cautious thing. We're just being cautious and remaining cautious so that Aaron Judge doesn't end up tearing something else, or that he doesn't end up putting himself on the IL for even longer. But I'm very confident that Aaron Judge will be back here soon. And then Stanton, I'm not really too sure about him. And then DJ, it's something with his hand, something with his wrist. They're getting a second opinion done. So that's not very good. I stated that earlier, that a second opinion is never usually a good thing. If anything, it usually means it's a bad, negative thing. But hopefully we can hope that DJ LeMahieu is only on the IL for around 2 to 3 weeks, because he's definitely a guy you need in the postseason. I would counter, though, by saying how many hits does he have in comparison and how has he done in the playoffs? I can't recall off the top. If we wanted to look at postseason stats, because I can do that, I can bring that up for you very quickly too, just so we can have a conversation about this, because it's a very reliable and reasonable question to ask. Gary Sanchez, I will give you that in the postseason as a whole, he hasn't been the biggest contributor. I can't sit here and tell you that Gary Sanchez has been clutch a lot of times, although I think he did have his fair share of moments in 2017 in the ALCS against the Houston Astros. He had some very important moments. He was one of the more important contributors in the 2018 playoffs, even though we don't usually want to talk about that because of the Red Sox series in the ALDS, which was beyond atrocious, was one of the more forgettable moments in Yankee history. So I can't say that he's been the most reliable guy in the postseason. But as far as his career numbers in the regular season, he's very reliable. I mean, he's a 350 WOBA, 120 WRC plus catcher. That's really good for a catcher. I mean, I think a lot of people forget that catchers are usually more of a defensive position than they are offensively. So a lot of catchers aren't going to give you a ton of offensive production unless you're a guy like Yasmani, or JT's pretty solid too. But for the most part, that's why I love Gary Sanchez. And he's getting better behind the plate. He is getting much better with the pass balls. His framing is getting better. I think that's a good point of why they brought in the Yankees catching coach from the Minnesota Twins. His name is Tanner Swanson. I should know that. I don't even know why I forgot that, but that's the whole reason why they brought Tanner Swanson over. Tanner worked with Mitch Garver most of the time in Minnesota. And Mitch Garver, although his offensive production is pretty much greatly outweighs his catching metrics. Still, I mean, Tanner Swanson is a good, reliable coach, as well as Matt Blake. That's a whole different question on its own, different topic on its own. But the whole point is, I guess, what I'm trying to make, because I'm very off topic right now, I'm not going to lie. Gary Sanchez, he's getting better defensively with the pass balls. He's getting better defensively in a sense that he's framing pitches better, and he's getting more called strikes than he usually did on balls that were clearly out of the zone. Like JT is a big master at doing so. That's one big thing about JT, is he's able to frame these pitches that are clearly out of the zone and make them look like strikes, and completely fool opposing home plate umpires to thinking that it is a strike. And that is the wonderful thing about JT. But if Gary continues to rapidly improve his defense, and he's at the level that he's at right now offensively, because like I know his start in a sense of offensive production hasn't been where it needed to be, but him and Glaber are both stepping up. You know, Gary's hit 3 home runs in the last 3 days. I can't complain about that. If he keeps going, doing that forward, if that is the type of production that he is having moving forward, I can't complain about that. And like I said, it is very rare to get a hitter of his caliber in the offensive production outside of a guy like Mitch Carver. Like I said, mostly catching is a defensive position. So I would definitely keep him. But would I be opposed to having a guy like JT as a catcher? Absolutely not. JT is my favorite catcher in the league. I don't think JT is the best catcher. I think Yasmani Grandal is the best catcher in the league in terms of balancing both offensive production and defense. But JT is definitely the best. I don't even really think it's close outside of Austin Hedges is an outstanding outstanding catcher in a sense of framing. He's a very, very good framer, although Austin Hedges is not the best hitter in the world. But JT definitely would love to have him in pinstripes, no doubt. So that's pretty much all that I wanted to cover. I think the bottom line of everything that I've said, and I know it's all over the place. I get that, because I usually jump from one topic to another because I have plenty of topics to talk about. I could probably sit here and talk about baseball for 24 hours, be tired as hell, want to go to sleep, and I'd probably still have the energy to muster up a conversation about baseball. But basically the bottom line is Clint Frazier has to play, period, point blank and simple. He has to play. If not, trade him for a pitcher, starting pitcher, in a sense of maybe a Lance Lynn or a Mike Clevenger if they become reliable or available on the market. Who knows? But right now, point blank and simple, Clint Frazier has to play. His value is continuing to grow. The more that he hits and produces, the higher his value will grow. Like I said, you can get him in possibly a trade deal for Mike Clevenger or Lance Lynn or another good, reliable starting pitcher. You probably have to put more pieces in there. But if he's not going to be traded, he has to play. He's too valuable. Let him increase his value. Let him keep hitting the ball. Let him keep producing and helping the Yankees win ball games. Gary Sanchez, hopefully he keeps producing at a high level that he's doing, keeps hitting home runs. He's hit 3 home runs in 3 days. Can't complain about that. Hopefully Glaber keeps on going at the pace that he's going. We need Glaber, especially right now, with Judge, DJ, and Stanton all out, which are all 3 key contributors. So he's got to keep up, stepping up. Glaber's been phenomenal. And that's pretty much all it. That's pretty much the only topics that I have left to discuss about this. I will answer some questions, though, before I get off. Last thing, when Giancarlo Stanton comes back, who should be benched, Hicks or Gardner? Now, I'm going to be one of those people. I love Gardner. Don't get me wrong. I have a very soft spot in my heart for Gardner. Gardner has done a lot of things for this team. He is elite defensively. He is one of the best outfielders in the league in sense of defense. He's very, very, very good with the glove. I don't think a lot of people need me to tell them that. But in a sense of moving forward, in the sense that Gardner is only getting older and a lot of these guys are younger, basically the ideal outfield, in my opinion, would be Judge, obviously, in right field, Hicks in center field, and Mike Tauchman in left field. Mike Tauchman has been swinging the bat phenomenally. You want him to continue to grow as a player. He was an absolute steal. He's been outstanding with the bat. And Mike Tauchman is elite defensively. He's beyond elite. He's one of the best defensive outfielders in the league. And he hasn't even had that much playing time, which is the funny part about it. That is just how good he is defensively. He saves a lot of runs. He has a lot of range. His ultimate zone rating in general is phenomenal. And he has a ton of outs above average. Like his outs above average is definitely above average. Like every sense of that word. So there's that. The reason that I would say that, though, other than just defensive reasons, because I would also say that Hicks is definitely a more solid outfielder than Clint Frazier. And that's why I think if we're talking about it, Clint Frazier, I think his best role as of right now is the primary DH. I would love to have Ford switch with him every now and then, but as of right now, Clint Frazier is definitely swinging a hotter bat, and I think Clint Frazier has more ceiling. He has more of a higher ceiling than Mike Ford does at the current moment in time. Don't get me wrong, I really do like Mike Ford. I do think at a certain sense that having a balance between righties and lefties is very important. That's why I don't have any objections of having a guy like Hicks or Tauchman playing over Gardner, because you're still getting that lefty hitter. And especially with Hicks, you can get him as a switch hitter. The thing about Gardner, and the reason why I would rather have a guy like Hicks over Gardner, is because Hicks, although his average isn't that good, and he doesn't hit for average, he is a guy that's always going to have a high on-base percentage. He's going to work a lot of walks for you. And that's why I said earlier in the podcast, I am not against Hicks being a leadoff hitter, in a sense that he's going to get on base for you. And then you have a guy like Aaron Judge to maybe knock in a home run or get a base hit, because Judge is going to hit the ball very well. And then you have a guy like DJ in the third hole, or possibly cleanup, to drive in those runners, because DJ is going to do DJ things, and he's going to hit regardless if there's men on runner, there's runners on scoring position, there's runners on the corners, runners on second, runners on first, whether there's nobody on base, most of the time as he's a leadoff, there's no runners on base. He's going to hit regardless. I mean, point blank and simple. That's what's going to do. That's what DJ does. He just hits the ball. So that's why I definitely would have Hicks in center, Tauchman in left, and Judge in right, and then Clint Frazier as DH. But right now, I do want to see Clint Frazier in the field, because I do want to see his value grow, and I want to see him prove his worth and prove that he can make those routine plays and occasionally make those outstanding plays that we've seen Gardner make countless times, that we've seen Judge make countless times, and that we've seen Hicks make on several number of occasions. So to me, it has to be Gardner. Tauchman is just so nice to have. I forget he's out, man. Damn. Yeah. Tauchman, I mean, yeah, you can. Yeah. The thing is, it's a good problem to have. I can say that. It's a good problem to have a lot of depth. The Yankees, the one thing that they can say that a lot of other teams can't say that they have, other than off the top of my head, I could say the Dodgers have this, and maybe the Twins, a few other teams, in sense of offensive production. But the good thing that the Yankees have is they have a lot of placements, in a sense that they have a lot of lineup constructions that they can do. There's a lot of different possibilities. And I've made this statement so many times. A lot of people are probably going to be like, you quit saying it now because you're sounding like a broken record. DJ LeMahieu could be put in the leadoff spot for the rest of eternity, and I'm not complaining at all, because I know he's going to get on base regardless. And I know that a guy like Judge could also drive him in. Or Luke Voigt hitting, in the third spot, if that was an option, could bring him in, or Glaber in a cleanup spot. These guys can all get their jobs done. Or even Gio. They've experimented with Gio up in the lineup now. Gio's been making things happen. So, he could be somewhere in there. And that's the good thing about this lineup, is they're going to drive in runs regardless. They're just that good of a team. They're that scary. And that's why you want your key contributors. You want Judge back. You want DJ back. You want Giancarlo Stanton back. You want them all back, because this team is so scary to face when everybody is at full strength and they are fully healthy. But as of right now, if you wanted to ask me what my full lineup would be with basically the current situation that we're in right now, I would prefer Judge be in right field, Hicks be in center field, Tauchman be in left field, because I think Tauchman has to play over Gardner, because Gardner's only getting older and Tauchman is showing his potential. He's getting the job done, not only defensively, which I'm not worried about his defense, but offensively he's been great, and he's that lefty bat that we need that could replace Gardner. So there's that. And then Hicks, like I said in the past, he works a lot of walks. He's not going to hit for a ton of base hits, but he's going to get on base a lot. And that's why I think Hicks is very important as the leadoff guy, because if he gets on base, it almost seems like it's a guaranteed run. As long as the Yankees are on point, as long as it's not one of those days where it's like a series against the Rays where they just can't get a base hit or they're getting very unlucky. If Hicks or Voigt are in the leadoff spot and they get on base through a walk, it almost a guarantee that the Yankees are going to drive and run, especially if you have DJ LeMahieu behind them, or Aaron Judge, or Glaber, or Gary. Gary could pop off and hit a bomb, or Giancarlo Stanton could pop off, hit a bomb. Giancarlo Stanton, before he was injured, was playing very, very, very solid baseball as a hitter. So that's pretty much all that I have today. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask me in the future, and I will definitely answer them. I will have one of my good friends on a podcast tomorrow. His name is Go DJ Go. He actually does a podcast himself, so I'm very excited to talk about some topics with him. I'm not going to say what we're going to talk about because they are going to be some very, very, very controversial topics. But they are definitely topics that need to be discussed. And one is controversial in a sense that it makes no sense that it's even a topic of discussion. We probably shouldn't even have to talk about it, but just because I am going to clickbait the hell out of the title, just so people, click on it. And I'm going to be honest, I'm going to clickbait it, and just to have people be like, okay, well, why is this even a question? Well, yeah, we're kind of wondering the same thing. It was actually a question about a week and a half ago, but I will leave that for you guys to discuss and kind of figure out what you think I'm talking about, because I don't want to blow it out of proportion and give you guys all the information already and spoil the surprise. But that's basically all that I need to talk about today. Hope everybody enjoys the game today. I don't know how well it's going to go. It could go any way because we have J Happ on the mound and DJ is out. I'm not really worried about the offense not getting anything done against the Red Sox because the Red Sox pitching is atrocious. We all know this. I would feel very, very, very bad as a Red Sox fan right now, because I really would not look forward to watching my team play baseball with how their pitching has been this season. But I'm not worried about the offensive production. I'm more worried about what J Happ's going to do. I don't know what J Happ's going to do. At this point, J Happ could do what he did last game. He could walk like 5+ people and then, only pitch 3 innings and give up 6 runs. Or J Happ could somehow come up and be, what he was with the Blue Jays and go 6 innings and allow only 1 run. I don't know. For the most part, I'm very convinced that Happ is probably going to give up at least 3 to 4 runs, because I still think the Red Sox offense has bright spots in the sense of JD Martinez and Xander Bogaerts and Rafael Devers, even though a lot of them haven't been off to the hot start, except JD has had his moments and Xander Bogaerts looks fabulous, which hurts me to say that, although Bogaerts is an outstanding player to watch. But I don't know. Give me your predictions. Give me your predictions below on what you think the final score is, or what you think Happ is going to do, because it is almost inevitable that Happ is going to give up around 3 to 4 runs at least. And that means the Yankees offense is going to have to score runs this game. It's not going to – I really highly doubt that Happ gives up less than 3 runs. I don't know if that's bad in a sense that I don't have any confidence in him, but that's just kind of the point that it's gotten to. At least with Paxton, we know it was the velo. It's coming back slowly. He's starting to come back to reality. But with Happ, it's just I don't know what the problem is. I don't know if it's this decline in age. I want to say it has to do with his location, because I don't think it's his velocity that's dropping necessarily. But I think it's more on Happ is just he's not getting any younger, which isn't helping him. But he just has no sense of confidence. He doesn't have the, at least from what I've seen this season and pretty much a lot of last season, not just a little bit, a lot of last season, was it seems like Happ doesn't have that confidence. He just doesn't have confidence like he did in the past. In a sense of when I mean the past, I mean not with the Yankees. But it just doesn't seem like he has that confidence to, challenge hitters and put them away constantly. He just tries too hard to put them on the edge in the corners, which if you can do that like a Chad Green, then go ahead and do it. It makes the hitter's job a lot harder. You're putting in spots that they can't hit. And I do appreciate that J Happ is trying to do that. He's trying to paint the corners and the edges more accurately with more proficient accuracy. But the thing is, he's just not getting it done. And that could do with his confidence, because he just doesn't have that confidence to pound the zone a little bit more. Not just, on the corners and the edge, but more not around the middle, because you don't want to pitch them directly in the middle. But he just doesn't have the confidence to pound the zone more. I'm not really sure what it is with him. Also, the confidence could be the reason why he's walking too many batters. Confidence is everything. And the fact that he hasn't had a good, reliable start since pretty much spring training, and that wasn't a regular season game, spring training at the end of the day, isn't going to contribute to anything that you do in the regular season. Confidence could be everything. And I think that was also with Paxton. With the velocity that comes up with Paxton, the confidence comes back. So, and, although he gave up crucial home runs in the Rays series, honestly, that was all on the offense. I'm not blaming that on Paxton. The offense had to do what they had to do, and they just couldn't get the job done against the Rays. And then Paxton really didn't have that awful of a start last night against the Red Sox. And the velo is coming back. He was hitting 95 miles per hour, and that's a good sign to see, and he's getting his confidence back. So with Hap, I don't know. I really don't know. The only thing that I'm going to pinpoint it is his confidence. It would explain why he's walking too many hitters, why he's giving up too many home runs. He's making too many mistakes, and that's basically contributing to the reason why he's walking too many batters. He's trying to put it on the edge and the corners too often, and he can't get those calls. I don't know. I don't know what it is. You guys feel free to tell me what you think it is about Hap. I don't know. He's one of those international man of mysteries that I just have not yet to figure out the case about him. But that's about it. I hope you guys did enjoy the podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed the game tonight. Hopefully Hap doesn't give up too many runs. Hopefully the Yankees win the game and they continue their hot streak on winning games at home. And hopefully the Yankees just continue winning. Hopefully DJ LeMahieu, we hear good news about him. Hopefully Judge is back soon. Hopefully Stanton is back soon. Just stay optimistic as possible. I know it's difficult, but all you can do is really stay positive. It's better than being a negative Nancy all the time. But enjoy the game, guys. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys for a podcast tomorrow.